Well, how's it going? You having a good day today? We're pulling for you. You really are. I want you to have a good day, boys and girls. Why wouldn't I? You want me to have a good day? I'm sure you do. Did I ever tell you about the Saab I had? You know, the car that I had when years ago. It was many years ago. Of course, I know I don't look that old, but years ago I had a Saab. It was black, and this is when Saabs were, the end car. It was hip to have a Saab. It was a black, I think it was an EMS, what they call an EMS, and had a sunroof and a cassette player. Those were big times back then, boys and girls, when you had a cassette player. This is before CDs even were, even existed. But anyway, it was a great car for a great guy, you know. I had this part-time job in the morning where I would call sometimes people would not get their morning paper, and they would call the newspaper agency and complain about it, that the paper boy didn't bring their paper, or it's missing, or whatever it is. And so I would deliver the misses. That's what they call the misses on the papers that people were missing in the morning. And I had a Pacific area. It was a historic district, with Victorian-looking homes and a lot of gingerbread houses and apartments and so forth. And it was a great area. And so that was my part-time job. As I called the newspaper agency in the morning. I think I called them about 7:45, and talked to a girl there, and she gave me the addresses of the people's homes and apartments where they said they missed their paper that morning. So I had organized all the addresses. I might have had, as an average, 25 to 35 a day, a morning. And so I'd go down to a gas station, and then where they had the papers there for me. So I take the amount of papers. If I had a list of 35 addresses, I'd take 35 papers. Of course, I'd take 36. 36, one for myself, and that was okay to do that. I wasn't stealing. They said that was okay to do that, so I do that. And then I'd organize the addresses, so I'd hit them one right after another to save me time and to save me gasoline on delivering them. Anyway, so I had it was a great part-time job. And I remember I went to this apartment. It was a Victorian home, and a lot of gingerbread on the porch, and it was like apartment number 3, and I had to go around the side and up a couple of flights of stairs. And anyway, I knocked on the door, and this beautiful, gorgeous woman, I mean, she was probably 21, 20 maybe, answered the door, and she was unbelievable. I mean, I've seen good-looking women before. I'd seen, sexy girls and playboys and penthouses and hustlers and stuff, when I was growing up. So I knew a good-looking bod when I saw one, but she was fabulous. Boy, she was cute. And so anyway, I says, "Oh, are you the one that needs a paper?" And she said, "Oh, yes, thank you. That's nice. Appreciate you bringing that to me." And I said, "Oh, you're welcome." She says, "Well, have you got a couple minutes? Why don't you come in for a minute? And would you like a cup of coffee?" I said, "Oh, no, thanks. No, thank you." She says, "How about some orange juice?" She says, I'm just starting breakfast here. I'm just sitting down, and it'd be nice to have some company. I'll give you some orange juice. You can have some raisin bread or whatever. And just take a couple of minutes. Won't you join me?" And so I said, "Yeah, that sounds good, thanks." So I went in, and of course we had eye-to-eye contact the whole time, And I mean, she was gorgeous, And why wouldn't a good-looking woman want eye contact with me? I mean, I was almost a 10. I know I still am, but I was better looking back then, I know it's I know it's hard to believe, but I was actually better looking back then than I am now. I'm smarter, boys and girls. I'm smarter and almost as handsome. But anyway, we had eye-to-eye contact, and then I left. Thanked her for the orange juice, and I think we had raisin bread and a sweet roll. And anyway, she says, "Well, it's nice visiting with you. Hope we can, meet again sometime." I said, "That'd be nice." So anyway, I thought she was a good looking. Of course, I was shy. I wasn't going to ask her out or anything because I was shy. I wasn't forward, boys and girls. I was quite innocent. And so anyway, about 3 or 4 days had passed, and every morning I would call the newspaper agency and get a list of the people who didn't get papers, get a list of the misses, and lo and behold, I think it was 3 or 4 days later, the same address where this woman was on the missed paper list. And so anyway, I went up to her house, her apartment, and knocked on the door. And I mean, in a million years, I'd never believed this would have happened. But anyway, and you probably won't believe me, and I don't care because I lived it. I know if it happened or not. And anyway, this woman, like I said, she's about 20, opened the door, and she was stark naked. She was totally nude. And I just couldn't even talk. I was speechless. And she was quick. She says, "You'll have to forgive me." And she says, "I just got out of the shower," and I could see, that she was wet, And she says, "Oh, you'll have to forgive me. I just got out of the shower and I heard your knock." And she says, "I've hurt my hand. I don't know if you do this for me, but I hurt my hand, and I was wondering if you'd mind telling me off. So I won't have to use my hand if you'd mind drying me." Now, what's a guy gonna say, boys and girls? I'm only human. I'm not Superman. I know I was a good person. I tried to, to live a good life, a good, clean, and wholesome life. But I wasn't, I wasn't made of a stone. And here's a good-looking woman, beautiful. I mean, she was thin, and she was perfect. She was absolutely stunning. And she's asking me to come in and dry her off? So I said, "Yeah, sure," So she went over to the chair and got a towel. Why she didn't put the towel around her and answer the door with the towel around her? Well, I know now why she didn't. She was trying to entice me. And she did a good job. She really did. She was thinking, boys and girls. Thinking. And so anyway, she got the towel, and I went in, and she handed it to me, and she turned around, and I started drying her back off, and her rear end. Boy, I'm telling you, it was a dream. And then she turned around, and she said, "Well, would you mind drying my front for me?" And so I obliged her. And she asked me if I'd come in and sit down, and if I'd like some orange juice, just like she did before. And I said, "Yeah, okay." What am I supposed to say? No, I've got to go. People are waiting for their papers. I didn't say anything like that. I don't care about the other people's papers. Why? Because I was thinking about myself, boys and girls. Myself, boys and girls. I wasn't thinking about other people's newspapers. What do I care about their newspapers? I was thinking about me and this beautiful woman, you know. So anyway, long story short, you know what happened. And so anyway, it was a almost a daily thing that I'd go there, you know, during my morning job that I had. I was not only getting an hourly wage, I was getting a bonus too. I get my hourly wage for delivering papers to these people that didn't get their papers, and I'd stop in for a bonus. It's like working, you know, double time. I was working double time too, boys and girls. Anyway, so that was one experience. Getting back to the sob. It's a sob story, boys and girls. Someone has to tell you. Anyway, I had this beautiful sob, and I was going down the street, and there was a good-looking gal that was on the side of the street hitchhiking. So when I was approaching her, I thought, well, you know, she's pretty good-looking. Maybe I'll pick her up and take her somewhere, you know. And anyway, so I pulled over, and she got in. And we started out, and she looked at my sob, you know, the interior of it. And she says, boy, this is a nice car. She says, what's your game? I says, I don't have a game. I'm in real estate. I restore homes. She says, you must do pretty good to have a nice car like this. I said, I do okay. So, you know, I drove about a half a block further, and she looked at me, and she says, do you have anything for a head? And I was naive at the time, boys and girls. I didn't know any, you know, stuff about sex. I swear to God, that's what she says. She says, do you have anything for a head? And guess what Ron said? And this is from all sincerity. Guess what I said? I says, why, do you have a headache? I was sincere about it. I didn't know what she meant. I didn't know that she was asking if I had money for a blowjob. I haven't participated in stuff like that before. She says, do you have a head? I said, why, do you have a headache? And she says, oh, you're funny. I wasn't trying to be funny. I guess I was just stupid, you know? So anyway, I dropped her off, and I went home to myself, and I said to myself, Ron, you need to think. Think, Ron. Think. 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 When a sexy woman asks you if you got something for a head, you don't say, why do you have a headache? You've got to use your head. I don't mean that. I don't mean that, boys and girls. But at least think and reason and analyze and try to make the right decision for that circumstance. I had a whole, tons of things happen to me like that, boys and girls. I'm not trying to brag, but I've had a great life, I told you in another video that I used to work at a movie theater. I worked as an usher and as, taking tickets and giving them to people when they came in the theater, in the lobby. And then I worked in the cashier's cage, selling people tickets. Now, there was a manager that was there to oversee everything during our shift. And, he was a nice guy, older gentleman. Anyway, during the movie, a lot of times he'd go in and watch the movie. Doesn't matter if you've seen it 20 times, he'd go in and watch the movie. He'd probably went in there and fell asleep. We didn't care. We're glad to get rid of him. Anyway, there's two guys that I worked with that went to my high school, and they had a racket going. And I remember one day I was the usher, and one of the guys was in the teller cage, or the cashier's cage, and one was taking tickets. And the racket that they had going on was the one guy would sell the ticket to people, take their money, give them a ticket, And the person would go in the lobby and present the ticket, and the guy taking the ticket had a couple of old stubs in his hand, in his palm, and he would take their ticket that they just bought, and he would pretend like he's tearing them. He did it really fast. He was pretending like he was tearing them, and then he would give him the stubs that were in his palm. You know, they had to be the right color ticket. You know, sometimes we had different color tickets for different days, so you'd have to have stubs in the hand that were the same color. But he would hand them the stubs, and they didn't know what was going on. So I'd usher him down the seat to sit, and the guy that took the ticket, he would go back to the cashier's cage, give him the ticket, you know, the whole ticket, and then they'd resell it. They kept reselling them over and over and over again. And I was making 85 cents an hour. That shows you how old I was. I was making 85 cents an hour years and years ago when I was in high school. These guys were pulling in 20, 30 bucks an hour by reselling tickets. And then when I was taking tickets, they said, well, you know, this is what we're doing, Ron. You know, you want to get in on it? I said, no, not really. Well, what do you mean not really? You're making 85 cents an hour. We're making 20, 30 bucks an hour when we do it. I said, it's dishonest. So I didn't do it when I was, you know, I didn't participate when I was taking tickets. I just wouldn't do it, you know. I had my own deal going, you know. When I was in the cashier's cage selling tickets, if a cute girl come in on maybe a matinee on a Sunday or something, she might even come with her girlfriend, you know. They either had to be single or they had to be two girls together. And they'd hand me the money. And I said, well, I know how you can see the movie for free. She says, well, what do you mean? How can we do that? I says, well, instead of you giving me your money for the ticket, how about giving me your phone number? Maybe we can go out sometime. You know, some of them would just laugh, giggle. They wouldn't laugh at me. You know, they just kind of giggle and say, oh, no, thanks. But some of them, you know, maybe 1 in 4, 1 in 5 would say, okay. You know, they get out their, a little piece of paper out of the purse and write their name and number down, hand it to me. I'd wave them in. Of course, the manager couldn't be there. So I was picking up all these numbers of women. Of course, some of them, they wrote the wrong number down. But I would say that at least half of them were the correct numbers, and the correct names. So I had all these dates. I had so many dates you could not believe them. I had so many numbers of women, I had to categorize them. I had a filing system, names, areas, zip codes, whatever. I had a filing system to house this massive collection of women and phone numbers. I had dates all the time. I mean, I was completely worn out. But I had a great life. I had a great life, and I still do. I didn't mean to do mean things or nasty things. I'm just a nice guy trying to get along in this world. Oh, you're perfect, huh? You don't do things like that. No, you wouldn't have gone in if a woman would have answered the door in her birthday suit. No, you wouldn't have done it, would you? Or some guy like Paul Newman or Johnny Dipshit or whatever his name is. Be standing there in the buff. No, you wouldn't have gone in and towed them off. But I was weak, boys and girls. And I needed to learn a lesson, and I did learn a lesson. Now, I'm not going to tell you what that lesson is, but I know it's good not to do stuff like that. And I did it. I didn't mean to do it. I don't know why I did it, boys and girls. Well, I know why I did it. I know darn well why I did it, but I shouldn't have done it. I didn't hear any complaints from that woman on the in the Victorian home where I was delivering Mrs. Didn't hear any complaints from her. I didn't hear any complaints from the women I let in the movie. One of the perks of working in the theater, and I got a lot of perks, was that we'd get free tickets, free movie tickets to give to our family and to some friends. And what did I do, boys and girls? I took the movie passes and I went down to the local drugstore. There was a couple of chicks there were, what do you call them, soda jerks? They didn't look like jerks to me. They were sisters. They were pretty good looking. I'd sit in there and I would trade them my movie passes for banana splits. So, I have a sweet tooth. I've always had a sweet tooth. So I traded movie passes for banana splits. And of course, during the time when, there wouldn't be very many customers in there. So we'd be flirting, I put a couple of other names in my filing system, I had a special section just for sisters and twins. I'm telling you, I could have sold that filing system for $1 million if I would have thought about it. I should have thought, boys and girls. I should have thought and thought and thought and made some money. But I was too busy. I wasn't thinking about money. I was thinking about good-looking women, baby. So I hope you enjoyed these stories. Don't do what I did. I know I did wrong. I did a lot of things wrong in my life, and I know that. I'm not perfect. What, you're perfect? Well, I'm glad you're perfect. I wish that you do just one thing in your life. If you don't do anything else, send me money. Send me money. I need your money. You can forget the Red Bull. You spend what? $4 or $5 a day on Red Bulls? Another $8, $9 a day on fast foods, maybe a slice of pizza on the way home. Take half of that amount. Just half. I'm not asking for the full amount. Take half of that amount, maybe $5 a day, and send it to me. And I will dispose of that money as if it was my money, and it really should be. I know you work hard for your money, but I work harder for your money. I really do. I'm taking my time that I could be out, doing anything. And I'm sitting here talking to you. And what do I get paid for it? Nothing. YouTube gives me maybe a penny for every 1,000 people that look at it. I'm losing money on the deal. Please, I plead with you, and I beg you, send me some money. And I'll be happy that you send me the money, and we'll all live happily ever after, and that's the end of the story. What do you think, these stories grow on trees? I wish they did. I'd pick me a few. What a pack of losers.